So hello and welcome everyone to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I'm Susanna, joining you from Helsinki, Finland, and I will be your host today. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, recovery, and Buddhist recovery, and also Gary, who is here with us today. I facilitate both 8-step recovery meetings and mindfulness-based addiction recovery courses here in Finland. I'm a member of the board of the Buddhist Recovery Network. Today, we have an academy teaching offered by Gary Sanders. Welcome back. The topic of the teaching is forgiveness on the path of recovery. Thanks everyone for being here and being part of our community today. So the format will be like this. So we will have a short period of meditation led by our teacher. Once I'm done with all the practicalities here, then there will be teaching, and at the end there will be a session of Q&A, and we will end up with some practicalities as well, links and things that are coming in the future. About dharma. All of our teachings are given freely, and we are blessed with some amazing teachers who have experience on the cushion, experience working with body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by the way of dharma. As we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support our ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link posted in the chat field. So thanks, our tech is today Sila Siri, and she has kindly posted the link to the chat. Please be sure to indicate that your donation is for the Academy, and we sincerely thank you for your generosity. And just in case you forget to mention that it's for the Academy, we will put everything that, all the dana that came during this session to the Academy. So don't worry about that. It's just a suggestion, so yeah. And okay, so now we move on to the main thing of tonight, or today for you this morning, whatever your time zone is. So I would like to introduce our guest teacher for this month, Gary Sanders. So Gary Sanders lives in both Portland, Oregon and North Hollywood, California. He's originally from Los Angeles area, where he was the founder of SCV Mindfulness and led up to 3-week groups for over 5 years. He was empowered to lead Buddhist meditation and Dharma groups at Against the Stream Buddhist Meditation Society. He helped from the ground level to found Refuge Recovery, a Buddhist-based recovery program for all addictions, which has now spread worldwide. After moving to Portland, Gary was asked to join the teaching staff of Portland Insight Meditation Community. Gary travels frequently and teaches daylongs and workshops all around North America, and maybe one day also in Europe, so I hope for that. So Gary originally got sober in 12-step groups using Gemin Griffin's book, One Breath at a Time, and while he's been heavily involved with creating and shaping various Buddhist-based recovery programs, taking a Buddhist approach to 12-step recovery is where his heart is. And the topic of the teaching today is forgiveness on the path to recovery. This is what Gary says about it. So many of us come into sobriety with a really poor relationship with ourselves, and so heavily burdened with resentments towards ourselves and others. By practicing forgiveness, not in a theistic Christian outside ourselves way, but a self-empowering and self-healing way to start to let go, to change our relationship with, and to be truly free. It is imperative for forgiveness to be infused in all our practices and our path, so that we can be liberated, experiencing the difference between just sobriety and the big recovery with the capital R. So welcome, Gary. It's always a pleasure to have you here. So the screen is all yours.
Well, thank you, Susanna. That's kind of sounded like you were talking about somebody else for a while. Like, who's that guy? Oh yeah, I guess I did that. So yeah, it's really good to be back here. We were saying earlier, I don't know if it was being recorded then, but one of my friends, Jeff from Flagstaff, is on the call right now. And I think it was the last time, maybe it was, I don't know if it was the last time or the time before, with the Buddhist Recovery Network. I was in Flagstaff at Jeff's place, and just knowing that, remembering that right now, just opened my heart. Like it feels really good to remember that. And which reminds me of one of the translations of Vipassana, which is the ancient term for mindfulness. One of the translations of Vipassana is remembering to come back to the moment, remembering to come back to our true nature, remembering of our inherent goodness. And yeah, it's really good to be here with a bunch of friends, Jeff included, and Susanna, and so many others. And I feel like before we do anything else, I want to take 3 big breaths. These are I can't cite the study, but there's a scientific study about taking these particular 3 breaths that really helps ground the nervous system. And yeah, just so if you want to play along, just you can close your eyes or you can leave them open, either way. But taking a big breath in through the nose, nice big full breath, and then a real slow breath out through the mouth. Try and make that out breath twice as long as the in breath. Another big breath in through the nose. Really fill up the lungs, and a slow breath out. Let the shoulders drop, let the belly soften. Another big breath, biggest one you've taken today. And a slow breath out. Release and soften. Here we are. I don't know about you, but I already feel calmer. my pitch, my pace has slowed down already. I noticed that. So yeah, forgiveness. Normally I like to talk about the practice a bit before we actually do the practice, but just to kind of go with the format, and just because I like shaking things up, let's I think it'll be fairly self-explanatory. We'll use some phrases of forgiveness, and it'll mostly be about ourselves this morning, because I think this is probably the most important place we need to start. And one of the great sages of our time, RuPaul, says, "How the hell are you going to love anybody else if you can't love yourself?" And I think forgiveness. I know forgiveness is, for me, speaking for myself, forgiveness is such a big part of that, to be able to start to create that self love, to start to feel comfortable in my own skin. So yeah, let's practice some forgiveness. So again, just turning inward, and you can close your eyes if it feels supportive, or you can leave your eyes open like the Zen Buddhists have been doing for 1,000 years or more, picking a single point of focus to rest your gaze. Turning inward, really just feeling into the body, feeling into your posture, and making any micro adjustments just to find yourself in a more sustainable, more comfortable posture. Feeling into all those points of contact that the body is making with the chair or the cushion, the floor. Noticing all the other little contact points on the body right now. Feeling the clothes on your body, the weight or the texture. Feeling temperature on your skin. Feeling that flow of the breath in the body. Just enough awareness to know the in-breath and the out-breath. Then just a little bit of a body scan, checking in with some areas of the body that might be holding tension or stress, and we'll try and release. We'll try and soften a bit. So just bringing some awareness to some of the little muscles in the face, like the brow, making sure your brow is unfurrowed. And if the eyes are closed, they're gently closed. If your eyes are open, that you just have a soft gaze on a single point of focus. Checking in with the mouth and the jaw, really making sure that the jaw is slack and that your teeth aren't tightly biting down each other. They're just barely touching. Your tongue maybe gently touching the roof of your mouth. And the lips, making sure the lips are soft. Maybe even bringing a little smile to your face, a little Buddha smile, like you see on all the statues. Just a little Buddha smile right now. And then we start to sweep down into the body. We check in with the neck and the shoulders. A lot of us hold tension in the shoulders, so just letting your shoulders drop down away from the ears. Let go of any stress that you can let go of right now. And then a gentle sweep down into the belly and the muscles around the stomach, and just letting the belly go. Softening the belly. And the hips and the pelvis, letting go of any tension that we might be holding there. From the torso, we just do a gentle sweep through the muscles and the joints in both the arms and the legs. Softening as we go through. Bringing awareness all the way into the hands and the fingers. Really making sure the hands are at ease. Same with the feet, toes uncurled. Feet peaceful. As we've scanned through the body, maybe you've noticed that there's some injury or some soreness, or maybe there's an illness in the body right now. So rather than resent or wish it to be something other than what it is, start to extend some forgiveness to the sore spots, the achy back, or maybe the sore knee or ankle. Some forgiveness for the cold. Maybe there's critical voice in the head right now, or a story that we've been hanging on to that's not so helpful. Or maybe there's some sadness or some shame that's lingering in the body. Can we meet all of that with some forgiveness? I think with all of our practices of mindfulness, of insight, we don't have to get rid of anything. We just start to change our relationship to it. Meet it all with compassion, with mercy, with some forgiveness. And we can just start to globally offer some forgiveness to ourselves right now, to just silently repeat some simple phrases of forgiveness. Just starting to gently, silently offer to yourself, I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the pain that I've caused myself and others. I forgive myself for not understanding. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the pain that I've caused myself and others. I forgive myself for not understanding. So let's sit for a while and just continuing to extend this forgiveness to ourselves. And if anything specific comes up, any old stories, any self-talk, criticism, judgment, if there's any resistance, there very well might be some resistance, especially if you're new to the practice, to try and meet it all with forgiveness. Get specific about forgiving the anger and the rage and the fear, the pain, the trauma. Forgiving all the addictions, the causes of addictions, the things that we did and said because of our addiction. Meet it all with forgiveness. And of course, our minds get distracted, our minds get pulled away. And so we just notice when the mind is elsewhere and we release the mind's attention on whatever the distraction is, the thought or the story, the sound. Relax our minds, relax our bodies, and smile. We meet all the distractions with friendliness. Gently smile at the distraction and bring yourself back. Start over again, again and again. Forgiveness. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the pain I've caused myself and others. I forgive myself for not understanding.
right, Jake. Not my dog.
I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the pain I've caused myself and others. I forgive myself for not understanding. And when you're ready, coming back to our circle here, continuing to show some compassion to our bodies, giving ourselves a little stretch, a little bend. Hydrate if you got something nearby. I think we had a little noise during the meditation. My camera's sorry. Oh, there we go. Let's focus. My cat was extra noisy. I don't know if you heard, she was crying at the door. That was Elvira. she's a Oriental short hair, so they say they honk rather than meow. It was a little loud. But yeah, right. I mean, that's the whole thing. There's noises, there's movement. You know, we don't meditate in a vacuum, and so this all becomes part of our practice. So, number one, thank you for meditating with me. And you know, when I brought up this topic, and this is one that's very near and dear to my heart because it's been so important to my personal practice. I thought of back in 2007, there was a teacher named Ken MacLeod, wrote in Tricycle magazine. I think the title of the article was "Forgiveness is Not Buddhist." You're purposely trying to ruffle feathers, trying to make some waves. I think his premise was basically that forgiveness negates karma, and basically that it wasn't anything that the Buddha taught directly. And you know, and of course he expanded it. And to me, I read, and I think he even put in an article too. He personally had, and he believes that a lot of people have a lot of baggage regarding forgiveness. A lot of, you know, maybe especially Christian baggage regarding forgiveness. So, you know, there's that. I would say that, you know, the Buddha didn't talk about attachment theory, and the Buddha didn't talk about early childhood trauma. And I'm pretty sure he didn't talk about crippling self-esteem or imposter syndrome. And, you know, it makes me think of, maybe there's two stories of the Dalai Lama that I think of. Number one, the Dalai Lama says that if any of the Buddha teachings, any of the Buddhist teachings are negated by modern day science, then we have to believe the science and put those teachings aside, you know, so, you know, we need to evolve. So there's that. And then the other thing that I think about the Dalai Lama Sharon Salzberg, one of my favorite people on earth. She's got a story that's been repeated a whole lot, that there was, I don't know if it was like in the 80s or 90s, something like that. There was a conference of Buddhists that got Western Buddhist teachers that they got together. The Buddha was visiting America and was part of this round table, and he had a translator there with him. And so everybody was just kind of asking the Dalai Lama questions. And I think it was Sharon herself asked about, we have these students and people are part of that are part of our communities that really struggle with self-hatred. So what would you recommend, Your Holiness, Dalai Lama? And he even the translator had to help him with it, and he just didn't get it. And they moved on, and they, and other people asked questions, and there was other discussions, and then a little like later on, it kind of hit the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama then addressed, and he said that we don't have in my part of the world, we don't have that problem of self-hatred. So that's in modern times, that part of the world. Imagine what it was 2,600 years ago at the time of the Buddha. No social media, no media at all, no advertising. People weren't bombarded with everyone telling them they weren't smart enough or good looking enough or tan enough or whatever it is that whatever they're trying to sell us, right? So we have to evolve, we have to adapt. When the Buddha taught the Metta Sutta, he instructed us on how to cultivate a boundless heart of loving kindness for all beings everywhere, which would include ourselves. And that sounds great. Well, not just great. He said, if you practice metta, if you are truly able to cultivate a boundless heart of loving kindness for all beings, then you will not be reborn again, right? That's the end of the Metta Sutta. You will not be reborn again. In Buddhism, that's a good thing, by the way. That means you're liberated. That means you are free. You are totally liberated. So that sounds great. But given, here we are, and especially in this realm, we're all in recovery, right? Whether we're brand new to recovery, whether we've been doing this for a long time. I come from the belief system that almost all of us, our addictions are rooted in trauma. So there's that, right? So we have this teaching of loving kindness and which can absolutely lead to liberation. Sounds great, but how do we get there? How do we extend open-hearted loving kindness to ourselves and all beings when there's just this lifetime of resentment, of self-criticism, of shame, of blame, of, especially, here we go, all of us walking into the rooms. I don't know about you, but when I walked into my first recovery room, I came in with desperation. Also, interestingly, and I think these are very parallel. The first time I went to a meditation group and the first time I went to a recovery group, both of them, I walked in, I can't think of a better, an uncrass term. I dragged my ass into the door out of desperation. It was out of my suffering that I knew I needed meditation, this thing that I, kept trying again and again, and I read about, and I knew there was something there that I knew I needed. And then, same thing with recovery. Like, my middle of my last bender, I know I just can't keep doing this. I'm killing myself. I have to do whatever I can do to get sober and sustainably stay sober. So, that also kind of it brings up, I'm gonna maybe I'm gonna ruffle a little feathers today too, because I think this is important to say, because I've been involved with help I'm one of the founders of Refuge Recovery and been involved in this Buddhist recovery thing for a while. Many of the recovery programs and also many other programs that offer mindfulness to people new in recovery, most of the time they're taught concentration practices. And because, again, we're coming in with all this trauma to, and one of the most widely used concentration practices is mindfulness of breath. If we're activated, if we're anxious, if we're triggered, and we bring attention to our breath that's short and shallow, that's just going to aggravate the problem. So I think it's really unskillful for people to be asked, like in treatment programs and in detoxes and brand new to recovery, sit down and shut up and don't move and bring attention to your breath again and again and again. That's probably not the most skillful thing. I have found anecdotally, I have found that offering metta to people new in recovery, it's a lot easier for them to get into that practice rather than concentration practices, to do the heart practices. And that said, asking someone to offer metta to themselves, and this has been my experience, and I've heard this again and again and again, it felt almost impossible to offer myself loving kindness. Thankfully for me, I had been practicing in the Zen. I've been doing Zazen for a while, and practicing kind of in concentration practices. I knew if it was that hard for me to offer myself metta, that it was the thing I needed to do the most. And to be able to get there, to even get there, I had to practice a lot of forgiveness to myself to be able to get to the metta. So I was kind of back to the Ken MacLeod thing. I was thinking about the difference between Christian forgiveness and forgiveness on this Buddhist path. With Christian forgiveness, and I was raised in a culty Christian. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, so I don't have the Catholic baggage and all that kind of thing. But I get the impression that with Christian forgiveness, there's a lot of there's that what do they call it? Absolution, or you're absolved. Do your Hail Marys, do your Our Fathers, and you're good. And and I think back of the old mobster stories, right? They go kill someone, and then they go see their priest, and then they're forgiven, and they're golden, and they're eating dinner with their family later. And so that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about contemplative forgiveness practice that allows us to start to let ourselves off the hook, to start to let go of the chronic shame, the blame, the guilt. We start to get on this path of purification that enables us to start to get into recovery. I was talking about in the description the difference between sobriety and recovery. Maybe we'll get to that a little bit later, but also different than the Christian forgiveness, just this, whatever that practice looks like. With using forgiveness on this path, that's just part of it. Meditation, and again, if we talk about the total Buddhist path, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, right? And in this, for anybody that's new, I'll give a super quick description here. The original teachings of the Buddha: in this life, there's dukkha. That word dukkha gets defined as suffering, as stress, as dissatisfaction. I like struggle a lot. We could also replace, say addiction. So, in this life, there is dukkha, there is stress, there's struggle, there's addiction, there's a cause of it. The cause is clinging, or the Buddhist term was tanha, unquenchable thirst. How many of us identify with, we know what unquenchable thirst feels like, right? So there's a cause. There is the third noble truth. There's the good news. There is freedom from dukkha. And the fourth noble truth is the path, this eightfold path. And it's not just meditation. That's just part of it. Cultivating wisdom, right view and right intention, or noble view, noble intention, and then living ethically, noble speech, noble action, noble livelihood, and then noble or right effort into mindfulness and commonly translated as concentration. I'm gonna say collectedness, and that's a whole nother subject. But so we can't just practice forgiveness and we're absolved. we have to start living ethically. We have to clean up the way that we speak, the way that we act, and the way that we show up in the world. And again, this isn't a linear path. This is the wheel of dharma. It looks like a ship wheel, right? We start spinning the wheel, and it's synergistic. The more that we live ethically, the more that we get deeper in our practice. The deeper we get into our practice, the more that we see the world clearly. The more that we see the world clearly, then we start living even more ethically, and on and on and on. So we start this wheel, and forgiveness, for me, it's imperative. Instead of chastising ourselves along the way, instead of criticizing ourselves and holding all the shame and blame, those are such big hindrances to the path. And it's so imperative to live ethically. We can't just negate the past, and like, well, yeah, I did all this harm. The 12-step term, right? Wreckage of our past. We have to deal with the wreckage of our past. We have to clean up as much as we can. Making amends, whatever that looks like, and then making sure we don't continue to do that harm. Try and clean it up, and not continue with it. So we also, it's super important for us to be realistic and acknowledge where we're at. I don't think forgiveness is a practice that we can force. I don't think that's skillful. And they talk about the 12-steppy thing, fake it till you make it. I think that works in a lot of things. I don't think with forgiveness it's super skillful. We have to acknowledge, and again, with mindfulness, one of the goals is to clearly see reality, the way things are. And so acknowledging, where are you at right now? What's possible right now? One of my favorite quotes about forgiveness is from Lily Tomlin. It gets attributed to Jack Kornfield a lot, but he took it from Lily Tomlin. I don't think he attributed it to Lily too much. But Lily says, forgiveness means letting go of all hope for a better past. Forgiveness means letting go of all hope for a better past. We have this lifetime of conditioning. We have all this wreckage of our past. Another line I really like from Father Greg Boyle, who started Homeboy Industries, he says that you're so much more than the worst thing that you've ever done. So we did this stuff in our past that doesn't define us. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to make sure that we don't do this in the future. But what am I able to do right now? How much am I able to forgive? I think, and then here we mix in this thing of there's more and more talk of toxic forgiveness, when people feel forced to forgive, whether it's by a therapist or, unfortunately, there's a lot in 12-step. And here we go. I'm gonna maybe ruffle some feathers. I don't know how many times I've heard 12-step. I've heard people say that their sponsor has told them when they're doing their 4th-step and their 5th-step that they need, if they've been sexually abused or, horribly abused in some way, that they need to own their part in that they need to acknowledge their shortcomings in that harm. And like, I'm censoring myself right now. I want to drop an F-bomb. F that. So that's, I don't know how many people have been harmed by that. How many people have gone out of the program because of that toxic shame. And so, I just don't think it's necessary to forgive everybody. We need to acknowledge what we're able to do. And that's why today I did the practice just forgiving ourselves. I have personally that one of my biggest enemies didn't harm me physically. It was more like financially for millions of dollars in federal court. but I was able to, after a while, when I was ready, I was able to truly forgive him and let go of that. But it was for me. I didn't have to like send him a Christmas card and say, hey, guess what? You're forgiven. Woo-hoo. It was for me. It was so much time and effort and pain replaying that in my head again and again, why he was wrong and I was right, and what I'm going to do, how am I going to retaliate and all that. And and definitely that was a big reason why I drank and used, because it was just that hate that was poison in me. And then, when I was ready, I was able to forgive and let that go and be free. And the way I was able to check in with that was, again, reality. When I was in a room with him and I checked in with my body and like, oh, I'm just not clenching up anymore. And I'm not feeling that hate directed at him anymore. I'm free of this. Forgiveness allowed me to get there, and it's not necessary to do that to everybody. I love one of my dear friends from Portland named Kel. They live in Thailand now. Hello, Kel. Kel came up with I think, one of the greatest ways to frame forgiveness. So Kel, and Kel's one of us, by the way. Kel pictures themselves as a doctor when they're ready to practice forgiveness. They're a doctor, they're in a doctor's office. And so there's 3 categories of people in Kel's life. There's the people that have an appointment, and Kel's ready for them right now. Sit down on the examination table. I'm ready to forgive. You're on the books. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm going for it. And then there's a 2-way mirror in the doctor's office, and you can see out in the waiting room. And so that's the other category of people. There's people in the waiting room. I'm not ready for you yet. Maybe I got an appointment for you. Maybe it's on the books, but I'm not ready right now. And so I see you out there. Wait your turn. And then there's the other people that are in the parking lot. Doors closed, nothing on the books. I'm not ready for you. I'm not even going to think about you right now. You're out there. And I think that is such a great way to look at this practice. Again, what are we able to do right now? And not force ourselves to do anything. Nobody can tell you what you're ready to do. We can have guides and we can have mentors and we can have therapists. You're the one doing the work. Nobody else is doing it for you. So forgiveness when you're ready. Yeah. So I look at forgiveness as a way of softening our, if we have a goal of practicing metta, loving kindness to ourselves and others, and there's any kind of restrictions, we got walls up, right? And we create these walls out of protection. Maybe our hearts are walled up, our minds are walled up, and then maybe we have all this, this lifetime of shame and guilt, towards ourselves, and resentment towards ourselves. I don't deserve this. I haven't earned this yet. I'm a bad person. I'm all that kind of stuff that can block the path. So, rather than just keep bumping up against that wall with metta, I just can't do this, then we practice forgiveness. And, and not forcing it, and not well, I keep kind of going back to, thinking about those of us that have been harmed in horrible ways. We don't have to forgive our offender, and we don't have to forgive our part in things, but acknowledging this wasn't my fault. I didn't have a part in this other than I was there, so letting ourselves off the hook in that way, forgiving that, just like, yeah, I was abused and I didn't deserve that. There was nothing I did that earned that or deserved that. And yeah, so I think that's really, really important. Using forgiveness on the path to awakening, forgiveness on the path of metta, and then metta is the path to awakening. It's been my experience, and I've seen this again and again and again, that this can certainly be a path towards emotional sobriety. And this is where we can start to realize the difference between sobriety and recovery. And, sobriety generally is just, what's the term? Abstinence. Sobriety is abstinence. We're not doing the substances. We're not drinking. We're not doing the things, maybe it's we're curbing our eating disorders and gambling and sex and, and all this other kind of stuff. And then recovery, and I've seen some definitions of recovery. Certainly recovery is getting to that place of deep peace and healing. But recovery, I think, recovering, I think I may have talked about this I don't know if we were recording yet, but recovering to our true nature, recovering to the inherent goodness and the inherent peace that's underneath all of that surface noise, all of that, the pain and trauma, getting to the point of emotional sobriety. And I know we're kind of mixing terms up here a little bit between recovery, but emotional sobriety is a term that is widely used within this world. Emotional sobriety, not just abstinence, but being truly free of substances and getting back to who we were before all the stuff went down. I'm really trying to be good about my speech here. I'm trying to be G or PG. Hey, mindfulness works. So, I was hoping that I did want to mix things up a little bit. So before we go to Q&A, let's do just a couple of minutes of loving kindness towards ourselves. So we talked about forgiveness a whole lot. I wanted to offer a simple, is it time for Q&A right now? Did I just tease everybody?
Yeah, it's just we want to have a few minutes at the end
Okay.
for the closing. 3 minutes will do. So if you have 2 minutes meditation and then we have 5 minutes Q&A, it'll be perfect.
Nah. I think
Something like that.
My instructions would take a couple of minutes. So, well, to be continued. To be continued.
That's a promise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
okay,
yeah,
so
I think, are you going to give some instructions on the Q&A?
yeah, do you want to wrap up or was it wrapped up already? I will give some instructions.
Forgiveness on the path to recovery, forgiveness to soften to metta, the end.
Thank you. So you can all applaud at your screens like this. Thank you, Gary. You really explain things clearly, and I also love the meditation. Thanks for that. That's going to be useful. I will be going back to that many times. And your laugh, it's so contagious, I'm so grateful.